What's up, guys? I am Kyle McGee alongside the legendary Drew Blazer, and we are Wrestling the Past. So this is a new show. This is the first ever episode. You can find us on the video form here on YouTube, or you might be listening to this on Apple Podcasts or even Spotify Podcasts. Either way, we're joining you. Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here. So this is going to be a show where we go back and just as fans, purely fans, never, not people involved in the business in any way, go back and look at old school wrestling shows from all sorts of different companies, whether it be WWF, WCW, ECW, TNA, NWA, AWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, name it all. We're going to go back and do in-depth breakdowns and little recaps of what we think of the shows personally, just as fans. So, Drew, great to have you on. How are you doing today?
Great to be on here for the very first episode of Wrestling the Past. I hope everybody enjoys it. And today we're going to be covering WWF Raw, the very first episode, January 11th, 1993, Cal.
That's right, Ooh. The very first episode of Monday Night Raw. We both went back and watched this today. Drew, I know for you it was re-watching it. I know you've watched it in the past. Believe it or not, this was my first time ever watching the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw in its entirety.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, very crazy.
I thought you've probably seen it before.
You would think. I've watched a lot of old school Raw, but I've never actually gone back and watched the first ever episode. So, January 11th, 1993, it was the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw. It was also the first Raw aired live on the USA Network from the Grand Ballroom at the Manhattan Center Studios, a small New York theater. It scored a 2.5 rating on TV. So when you hear that, thinking, looking at kind of what ratings are at today, obviously I'm not going to pretend to be a guy who understands ratings or cares about them all that much. But looking at what ratings are at now today and looking at it back then, how crazy is it to think the first ever episode scored a 2.5?
I mean, I don't know. I think, that's pretty decent for a very first episode of something.
No, it absolutely is. And by today's standards, I mean, a 2.5, they wish they could get that nowadays for an episode of Raw, I feel like.
Yeah, sad. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so, obviously this show, we can't even begin to explain its historical significance. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But before we talk about Raw, Drew, let's talk about the news from today. Cody and Brandy Rhodes leaving AEW. Is this a work? Is this for real? What do you think's going on? Because I'm seeing that Ariel Helwani is reporting. Yeah, my guy Ariel Helwani is apparently reporting that Cody is already in talks with WWE and is about to sign. What do you make of that? Do you think this is just a work, them like working people, or do you think this is for real?
I don't know. I mean, I always thought there was some kind of reason why he didn't resign a new contract, because I thought that was kind of weird, being an executive and all.
Absolutely,
then sign a new contract. So, I don't know.
I mean, obviously,
would he want to go back to WWE?
I wouldn't think so with what he's been doing, but I mean, let's be honest, maybe he just wanted to help AEW get off the ground, and maybe he's built his own platform and he wants to go back now. Maybe he knows that, he's the type of guy now that they're going to want to use. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and I feel like it would be remiss of me to not mention this on this show today.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, as far as the work thing, I don't know. I wouldn't think so, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it is.
Yeah, neither would I.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Definitely is. Well, I mean, hey, yeah, exactly. We'll see soon enough. All right, so let's get down to the action. So the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw kicks off with backstage interviewer Sean Mooney, and he's in front of the Grand Ballroom, and he's basically playing gatekeeper for Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's not letting him in. He's determined to get in. But Mooney tells him it's sold out all the way to the ceiling, and Heenan has to stay outside. Kind of a goofy way to get things going. And Heenan has been replaced by Rob Bartlett for this episode.
Yeah.
Drew.
Oh, my.
So, this was a very interesting and goofy way.
Much.
It was a very interesting and goofy way to start off the show. Bobby Heenan's being told he's been replaced by Rob Bartlett. And it's kind of funny because just a year later, Bobby Heenan's in WCW.
Oh, yeah.
How funny is that?
Ooh.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, it really is crazy to think that 93 was his last year.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's almost like it might have just... I mean, obviously, this was just a work, and it was kind of a way to play up his heel character and also play up how big of a deal Monday Night Raw is supposed to be. But, it's kind of funny in hindsight. It almost it feels like a writing on the wall type thing.
Yeah. I mean, who would have thought a year later? But, yeah, wow.
No kidding. But so we go inside, though.
It was a good comedy.
It was. No, absolutely it was. So anyway, we go inside and we see our commentators, Vince McMahon, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Rob Bartlett, who, by the way, for those of you who don't know, he was the local radio DJ who had absolutely no clue about professional wrestling. And we're going to get into that in a little bit, but my God, Drew, does it show?
Yep.
Does it show that he knows nothing about wrestling? So we kick things off with the Birdman.
Yeah, I mean, just from the first few minutes, no.
Yeah, no kidding. So we kick things off with the Birdman, Koko B. Ware, and he's going to be taking on Yokozuna, who's accompanied by Mr. Fuji. Yokozuna, of course, goes on to win the Royal Rumble just a few short weeks after this. We see quite a few advertisements for the Royal Rumble throughout the show. Yokozuna is going to beat him in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Drew, what do you think of the match? Do you think it held up by today's standards, or do you think it's still just, your stereotypical squash match you'd see today?
Yeah, just typical squash match. I mean, there wasn't much to it. It's make Yokozuna look good, I guess.
Yep. And like I said,
That's
we know he's going to go on to win the Royal Rumble, which gets advertised heavily throughout. January 24th, 1993, exactly 2 years before I was born. So there's your fun little trivia note of the day. Fun little trivia note of the day.
Yeah.
The part I wanted to talk about was right out of the gate in this match. When Rob Bartlett says about Yokozuna, he's got an ass like an amphitheater.
Oh.
And Vince, you could tell, clearly had no idea what to say. And Macho Man makes sure to let you know it's raw, it's uncut and uncensored.
Yeah, they say that a lot.
They say that a lot throughout the night. They keep emphasizing that it's raw at one point. I can't remember what match it was, but at one point, Rob Bartlett, I believe he's doing I'll get to that in a little bit, never mind. But Vince does make the comment about it not being that raw. But, yeah, this was just your typical nothing squash match designed to get Yokozuna over. I mean, it did an effective job. He tosses him all around the ring. Looks really strong in the process. Drew, what do you think of Yokozuna as a worker? Do you think he holds up by today's standards?
Yeah, I think, just your typical, real big guy who, probably doesn't move around. Well, yeah, he probably moves a little too slow compared to today, but, yeah.
Yeah, but
just typical big guy,
Yeah, I feel like as far as, the character and the believability, even though he's a little bit slow for today's day and age, I feel like he would still hold up very well. I have always liked Yokozuna when I go back and watch personally. He's not going to be the greatest in-ring technician, but I like his work. But the ring ropes, trying to hold him up was a scary sight, was it not?
Yeah, somehow, yeah.
They were the middle rope was touching the bottom rope. If you all have not seen this episode before, I encourage you to go back and watch it. It's definitely scary. So, next up, we've got the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, defeating the Executioners, which is Dwayne Gill, the future Gilbert, and Barry Hardy under masks in exactly 3 minutes. Here's one thing that stuck out to me. We have, Doink the Clown showing up in the background throughout the entire match. But did you notice that Vince, Macho Man, and Rob Bartlett had no clue which one was Rick and which one was Scott?
Yeah. Yeah. The Bartlett guy made the joke, and then I think, the other guys didn't even know who was who either.
Yeah, so like throughout
wow.
this match, he says,
I thought that too.
Yeah, he says which one's Rick and which one's Scott? Is it the one with the headgear? And there's a moment of silence, and Macho Man said, and you know Vince encourages Macho Man to say something. He says, "It's the one in the middle." And
the guy in the middle.
Yeah, and throughout the match, whenever one of them does something, it's great move by the Steiners.
Oh man, what a maneuver!
Yeah, I want to say it was like a suplex that Rick does at one point, and Vince says, "And what a move by the Steiners here!" And it's just by one of them. They clearly didn't know which one was which I found funny. Weird seeing the Steiners on WWF programming, though, isn't it? I feel like to me it's always weird.
Yeah, I think for you being a WCW guy, it probably is, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like seeing them on WWF programming, you can tell, you know, the fans loved them. The fans knew who they were. They popped big time. They look good here. That might have been one of the better Steiner Bulldogs I've seen to finish the match.
Oh.
It looked pretty damn good. But yeah, this was, again, kind of a nothing match.
And also, I didn't know Gilbert was apparently part of that match.
Yeah, apparently so. I'm looking it up right now, and it's the Executioners, which was Barry Hardy and Dwayne Gill, which of course was Gilbert. So we see a backstage interview, by the way, with a pre-recorded video with Bobby the Brain Heenan talking to his ex-protege, Mr. Perfect, about the debut of Narcissus. Because just calling him the Narcissist would have been too much. The Narcissist, of course, would go on to be Lex Luger. I thought this was a pretty good promo. I love the way he set it up. What did you think of this promo, looking back on it?
Yeah, it was pretty good, and the build-up to the Rumble and everything. That's when he revealed him, I think, right? The Rumble?
I believe, I could look, but I do believe he did reveal him at the Royal Rumble. I'm going to look this up right here, because now I've just got to know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But
I'm pretty sure it was the Royal Rumble 1993.
But yeah, it was a good start to build up to that.
Great show, and they put him over so huge, you know, that even Ric Flair agreed that Michelangelo could not have sculpted a better, you know, like it's just putting him over so well. You know, obviously I love Lex Luger. We all know that. Anybody who knows me personally knows that, I should say. And yes, he was unveiled. The Narcissus was revealed at the Royal Rumble 1993, and he was very quickly altered to be the Narcissist. Which, even then, it wasn't Narcissist, it was Narcissist. What do you make of the pronunciation? What are your thoughts?
Like, whatever. I don't know why they had to do it. I don't know, were they trying to be special or something? I don't know, but...
yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
it was
Narcissist.
Yeah, the narcissist, but no, instead we've got to say the Narcissus.
Because he's an artist, I guess? I don't know, but... Whatever.
Yeah, it still didn't really make it. It still did not really make a whole lot of sense to me to just pronounce it that way. But you know what? Whatever. I guess they were trying to do something different. Of course, the Lex Luger character would go on to not be what Vince McMahon hoped it to be. He wanted him to replace Hulk Hogan. We all know that. Didn't work out for a multitude of reasons that even I, as a Lex Luger fan, could admit were pretty fair. We end up seeing Bobby Heenan as Rob Bartlett's aunt. Trying to get into the hall. Of course, Sean Mooney ends up seeing through the disguise. Bobby the Brain Heenan, of course, is perturbed when he can't get into the arena. I personally, I liked it. I thought it was funny. What did you make of it?
Oh, yeah, it just showed how desperate Bobby was to get in. So
absolutely,
it was entertaining.
Absolutely cornball, and that's one thing I love about Bobby Heenan when you go back and watch him. The guy was not afraid to make himself a clown. He wasn't afraid to make himself the butt of the joke every time he was out there.
Oh yeah, it's great. It entertains people. You make big money off that. So it's all good.
100% you make big money off of it. And it worked out. He made a great career out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Weasel.
The Weasel himself, yeah. So, So next up, we had Shawn Michaels defending the Intercontinental Championship against Max Moon, the future Conan,
Yes.
the wrestler from space. Shawn Michaels would defeat him to retain the Intercontinental Championship in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Drew, you told me you had a lot to say about this, so I'm going to let you take it away here and see what you've got to say about this.
Well, first I was going to say, is it actually Conan or Conan?
It's Conan.
Just like narcissist.
Yeah, so it was pronounced Conan. It wasn't Conan. It is Conan.
Okay. So maybe narcissist is narcissist then. I don't know, but well, I did want to point out that Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker were the two guys that consistently stayed with the company all the way from that first episode of Raw for Shawn Michaels till 2010.
Yep.
And Undertaker until 2020.
Wild when you think about it. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible, especially when you consider, like you said, 2010 and 2020. This was 1993.
10 years. Yeah.
This was 1993.
Almost
so
30 years ago.
So even for Shawn Michaels, that's 17 years?
Yeah.
And he had been with the company before this, too.
Yeah. Yeah, since 88, I think. Or something.
Yeah, he'd been with the company for a while, of course. The Undertaker debuted. I want to say it was 1991, correct? No, it was 1990. It was 1990.
Yeah, 90.
Survivor Series
November
1990. That's correct. 1991 is when he won the WWF Championship. Yep, that's correct. Okay. And that's why I kind of get those...
You broke my neck, brother.
Oh, you got me, brother. So yeah, this match went 10 minutes, 30 seconds. I'm going to be honest. This was hard to watch.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this. This was so slow. I heard this was on the card, and I was like, wow, Shawn Michaels and Max Moon. Max Moon, obviously a goofy character. It's like, this is easily going to be the match of the night. Holy shit. This match was so slow. Everything they did, just, you got Max Moon dominates the first portion of the match. There's a lot of rest holds.
Yeah.
There's a few good moments, like the seated senton by Max Moon to the outside. But God, I just could not get into this match.
Nah, it was, it was kind of
It was very...
To be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, it was very
strange.
And it's weird because you think about it, and Shawn Michaels is known for his great in-ring work, especially around this time, honestly. So to watch a match like this where it's so slow, and then of all things, the guy wins with a fucking back suplex.
Oh, man. But also was this the match that they were making jokes about Mike Tyson?
Yes, I was hoping we were going to get into that. The entire time, we've got a Mike Tyson impersonation by Rob Bartlett. I could go on about this for a while. What the hell was the point of this?
Yeah, it was terrible, too.
Oh, it was absolutely terrible.
I'm in jail.
Yeah, I'm in solitary confinement, and I'm by myself. We get it. You're calling him stupid.
I'll see you in 5 years, Vince, to kick Steve Austin's ass.
That was another thing I was going to say. How wild is it that they do this segment, and just 5 years later, he's working for the company and in good graces with them?
Yeah. I guess he didn't see that episode of Raw. I don't know.
Probably not. Well, no, that's not fair, Drew, because we heard on commentary that Mike Tyson was watching Raw.
Oh, well.
He came on the show and said he was watching Raw.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did. You're right. Yep.
Yeah,
But yeah, they didn't seem to care about the match either. So
no, they really did not seem to care.
Why should we?
Yeah, and to be honest, I really and truly didn't. It was just so slow for me. It was so awkward. These guys had no chemistry. Yep. To me personally, they had absolutely no chemistry. Conan, maybe not the best in-ring worker of all time, but he's had some decent matches throughout his career. He's not a terrible in-ring worker. So it was just kind of weird to see him in such a bad match, especially seeing Shawn Michaels. I don't even know how else to say it.
Yeah, well, one good match. I mean,
yeah, and that was about it.
Happens.
We had I believe it was actually before this, so we did skip out on it. I don't have something pulled up where it's telling us in order, so we apologize for not telling this in order. We'll get better about this as it goes on. We had a Vince McMahon and Razor Ramon interview about his upcoming match for the WWF Championship at the Royal Rumble. I believe this interview took place before the Shawn Michaels match, so I do apologize for going briefly out of order. Razor Ramon and Vince are talking. They're talking about how it took Bret Hart 8.5 years to get to the mountaintop, and Razor talks about how it only took him 8.5 months. We see the footage of him attacking Owen Hart, and Razor telling Bret, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, and it's not that you don't want to, it's that you can't. What did you think of Razor on the mic here, heading into this match with Bret?
Yeah, not bad. Just, typical heel stuff, I guess. But I think he kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it was all that great. It was not bad. He definitely got better.
Yeah, he definitely got a lot better. The one thing that stuck out to me was how hard he had to work to try and make that accent happen. And then as a result, how slow he's talking and delivering every word.
I think that's basically, that's what I was thinking about. It was kind of,
he
was trying to get into the character.
Yeah, he was trying very hard, and his delivery's very slow. I do at one point want to go and watch the Royal Rumble 1993 for this show, and that way we can kind of break down this match, because, honestly, Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, that sounds like a pretty damn good match to me on paper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think it actually ended up being pretty good.
I'm sure it did, and of course on this episode, after Shawn Michaels defeats Max Moon, we get the official announcement that he will be defending the Intercontinental Championship against Marty Jannetty, and Sensational Sherry's going to be at ringside, but who's she going to be with? And we see some backstage interviews with Shawn and then with Marty, and they're kind of both teasing about who she'll be with. I love the promo work by Shawn here. Shawn was such a great heel back then, told a great story.
Yeah.
I loved how great he did at getting into his character. What did you think of their interviews, and what did you think of Marty Jannetty in his part of the backstage promo?
Oh man, yeah, it was all pretty good. They have good chemistry together. Of course, it probably helps that Shawn doesn't have to do a fake accent either, so that helps.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
You can really just
that definitely helps.
Just heal it up and kind of just be yourself, maybe with the volume turned up a little bit. So, yeah, pretty good.
And from all accounts of everything people have said about Shawn Michaels back then, I would say that's absolutely the case. I did want to point out the irony in something that Marty Jannetty said. He said, not only am I going to beat you for the Intercontinental Championship, Shawn Michaels, but I'm going to end your career at the Royal Rumble. I find it kind of ironic because the Rocker splitting up kind of killed most of the momentum in Marty Jannetty's career. He would rebound a little bit. If I'm correct off the top of my head, I don't think he won it at Royal Rumble 2000 or 1993. Sorry, I'll check really quickly, but I do know that he did end up winning the Intercontinental Championship at one point from Shawn Michaels. It was not briefly. It was not at the Royal Rumble, but he did end up winning it at some point. Another fun thing to point out is that during the episode they said that Bret Hart versus Razor Ramon was going to be the main event at the Royal Rumble, and it, as a matter of fact, was not. The Royal Rumble match did end up main eventing. The Steiner Brothers match that we mentioned earlier the night against the Executioners was to set up their pay-per-view match against the Beverly Brothers. So, for the most part, everything we're seeing here tonight, we talked about Yokozuna defeating Koko Beware, and he would go on to win the Royal Rumble. We've got the Steiner Brothers match. We've got Shawn Michaels defending their Intercontinental title. Pretty much everything we've seen so far tonight does set up the Royal Rumble pay-per-view itself. So that is kind of nice, the consistency there of how they're going about this. We are 2 weeks away, but everything here does kind of set this up.
Yeah, they were just getting their new show going. I don't know. I don't think any of the matches were very memorable, honestly.
No, definitely
on this episode.
And when it comes down to the least memorable match of the episode, we will get to that with our main event here shortly. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, of course. But if anybody thinks back to that first episode, they think about Bobby Heenan.
Absolutely. And speaking of Bobby Heenan, we are going to see him again, this time as, I believe it was Uncle Morty. trying to get into the show.
Yeah.
And somehow Sean Mooney almost falls for it again and even makes the comment of, well, I met your wife a little bit earlier. What the fuck?
Yes! Wait a minute.
What do you mean you met his wife earlier? You know that was Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
Some goofy shit here, but I absolutely loved it. It was so fun, to be honest. Bobby Heenan.
Of course, Sean Mooney wasn't even around that much longer, I don't think, after that.
I don't believe so, no. I could check, but I do not believe he was for much longer. Another thing I wanted to comment on was the intro of the show itself. I loved the old school intro, personally.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I love the old school intro on this show. I loved it. Another thing we didn't comment on was the ring card girl that showed up to remind people that they're watching Monday Night Raw. Is that or is that not the most 90s damn hair you've ever seen?
Yeah, it really is. The early 90s.
Yeah, my lord. That just screamed the 90s. Her hair was so loud, I think is the right way to put that.
It was raw. It was uncut.
It was uncut and uncensored. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So after we get the Shawn Michaels Max Moon match finally underway and over with, we cut backstage. We see that promo. Then we see them talking about WWF Mania, a nice commercial for that. And then we talk about Kamala.
Kind of goofy.
Yes, and then we talk about Kamala finally seeing the light. And we see in full the segment, I believe, from WWF Mania, where he turned face after Reverend Slick came out. To me, this kind of dragged on. I don't know why they had to show the full thing in its entirety. Yeah. But Kamala does turn babyface on this episode, so that is interesting. I can't tell you off the top of my head where this goes, but hey, it's something that happened.
Yeah, basically. It happened. And yeah, it was very long. I agree. I thought the same thing. Jeez.
So
then that's okay.
Yeah. So then after that, we cut to the Royal Rumble report with the legendary, one of the greatest announcers you'll ever find, Mean Gene Okerlund. He does the Royal Rumble report, and he takes a special look at the competitors that are in the match. He's listing through who we've got. We get a promo from Mr. Perfect, of course. He continues on. We get a promo from Mr. Fuji and Yokozuna, where Yokozuna's just repeatedly yelling, "Yosh!" while Mr. Fuji's putting him over. Kind of fun. And then we wrap up last hearing from the winner of the first ever Royal Rumble match, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I kind of dug listening to Hacksaw here. I mean, this was a fun little segment, putting over the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. I personally don't have a problem with it. It's funny to think, though, they kind of went back to that this year, didn't they?
Yeah, with what can't I think of his name? The guy that replaced Sean Mooney later on. New York guy.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh man, I'll think of it.
But yeah, they did that again this year, here in 2022, where they announced, like, on an episode of Raw, like, these are going to be the people in the women's and the men's Royal Rumble match. Of course, they didn't give away all the entrants, but they listed most of them, and I feel like it's been a long time since they've done that, and that was kind of the vibe I got watching the show. I was like, hey, wait a minute, they just did that this year.
Oh yeah, that was the gimmick they did throughout the 90s, before the Attitude Era, that is.
Yep, and
they would kind of go over the pay-per-view, yeah.
Yep.
It was a regular thing.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. So yeah, we've gone through all that, and now here we are, the main event of the evening. And it is The Undertaker taking on Damian Demento with Paul Bearer at ringside. The Undertaker defeats Damian Demento in 2 minutes and 26 seconds. It starts off with Damian punching him, whipping him off the ropes. The Undertaker bulldogs him, beats him up for a second, hits a tombstone, and that's the match. Drew, what's your favorite Damian Demento match?
It'd probably be that one, because that's the only one.
This was weird for the main event, was it not?
Yeah, maybe they were thinking it was going to be something else, but yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 minute squash match.
Bring in this random dude.
Yeah, of course, having having The Undertaker go out there and squash somebody's good, but to have that be the main event, little off-putting. Damian Demento was in the World Wrestling Federation from 1992 to 1993. He'd be in the Royal Rumble match, and then would compete solely on house shows, almost solely, it says, until October of that year. Kind of weird to have him be in the main event of the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw, but there you have it. Having The Undertaker in the main event makes sense, though, does it not?
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously this was kind of a nothing match. And then we finished the show with Vince McMahon interviewing Doink the Clown. And he says, it's not my fault if kids don't have a good sense of humor when he talks about making them cry. Crush comes out. He's going to make him pay. And they have the most awkward chase segment I've ever seen where Crush starts running at him and then walks. And then starts running at him again and then walks. And then slides into the ring and his music plays.
Yeah. Kind of whatever.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about this. This was kind of weird. But then we cut to outside the arena where Sean Mooney is with security and is letting Bobby the Brain Heenan know he has good news. He can let him in the building now that the show's over.
Yeah, now since the show's over.
But he doesn't tell Bobby Heenan the show's open, and they go off the air. So,
oh, yeah, I can go out.
And he goes into nothing. So, obviously, there have been much greater episodes of Monday Night Raw throughout the history. But this was the first ever episode of Monday Night Raw. So, overall, Drew, give me your thoughts. What would you rate this show on a scale of 1 to 10?
Maybe 6.5 to 7, maybe.
6.5 to 7.
I mean, like I was saying, none of the matches are memorable. It was really the Bobby stuff, but I don't know. It was a good way to start it all off. It wasn't bad.
Boy, oh boy, here we go, folks. The first disagreement of the show.
Oh,
I give it overall.
Before that, though. The guy I was thinking about was Todd Pettengill.
Todd Pettengill, that's right. Yep. So
he would do those special reports before the pay-per-views. Yes. All right. Woo. Just had to get that
6.5 to 7 out of 10. Holy shit, man. Your standards are terrifying to me. This is barely a 1. Historical significance, it's great, but this show, the matches are bad. There's not really a good match on the show. Shawn Michaels and Max Moon sounded like it was going to be the best match of the night, but it probably wasn't. You've got the Steiners destroying the Executioners. I don't think the Executioners landed one move on them. I think Coca Beware landed a drop kick on Yokozuna. Damian Demento lands a few punches on The Undertaker in his tombstone. This was a nothing show. The best part of the show was the Bobby Heenan stuff. The commentary,
and that's what I said.
The commentary was awful. How can you give this a 6.5 or 7 out of 10?
Because of Bobby effing Heenan.
Oh my God. Okay, so a 6.5.
That's all it takes.
So if this is a 6.5 out of 10, the Royal Rumble from 2022's got to be a 10 out of 10.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. You're leaving yourself no room to grow here.
Okay, maybe it was a 4.
God damn.
I'll lower it to a 4.
Okay. Like
I said, yeah, the matches weren't good. They're not memorable. Nobody's going to remember them. The commentary, wasn't great.
I'll cut you some slack because this was the first ever episode of Raw and has a historical significance, but this is a horseshit episode of Monday Night Raw.
I think because of Bobby Heenan and because it was the very first one, it kind of feels special, I guess. But if it was just some random Raw, like 3 years later, terrible.
All right, well, obviously we talked about the historical significance of this episode, so let's get into that a little bit before we wrap things up. 29 years later, the historical significance of this show cannot be... It can't even be put into words, I don't think. I think this is single-handedly I'm going to go ahead and make a bold claim. WrestleMania saved the WWF back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right.
But I believe that Monday Night Raw debuting is probably more significant to the history of the wrestling business than WrestleMania. Because here we are 29 years later. It's still running every week. Because Monday Night Raw started, we got the Monday Night Wars. We have so many great memories that you can look back on. And it all started because Monday Night Raw happened.
That's true. Yeah,
I think,
Nitro and everything like that, yeah.
And that is, I think this is single-handedly the most significant moment, television-wise, I should say, because obviously there's more significant moments like Vince buying the company from his dad and things like that. But I think this, to me, might hold more significance historically than WrestleMania even.
Oh, man.
I know that's a hot take, and there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me. I think when it comes down to it, it's like those are kind of like 1A and 1B. Like they're barely above each other, whichever way you put it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I would say, yeah.
But yeah.
I'm not sure if it's more important, but it's up there with WrestleMania, yeah. Definitely.
But here we are, 29 years later. Raw is still running. I can't say it's still running strong, but it is still running.
Well, it's still on the air. It's still making, what, millions, if not billions of dollars?
Definitely making millions. I don't know about
TV
billions.
rights.
Yeah. Still making them a lot of money. So yeah, like I said, we can't downplay the historical significance of this. And speaking of historical significance, Drew, do you want to tell people what's on the docket next week when you and I continue wrestling the past?
Oh, man. Well, I don't know. You should tell them.
You want me to tell them? Okay. I guess
go ahead.
I guess since Drew announced what this one's going to be, I can announce what next week's going to be. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, we cover the first ever episode of Raw this week. Next week, we're going to cover the first ever episode of WCW Monday Nitro. The start of the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
Drew, are you excited?
Yeah. Today we did my show, and next time we do your show.
That's right.
First episode of yours.
I can say I have watched the first episode of Nitro probably 5 times, so I'll be watching it for about the 6th time next week. Have you ever watched it?
And that's where I can be you and say that I have never seen it.
So this is going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what you think of the first ever episode of WCW Monday Nitro, so tune in next week for that. But ladies and gentlemen, we also have a special episode of Wrestling the Past coming soon. It'll either be later this week or it'll air next week. But I landed us a pretty interesting episode, so tune in. Any fans of local wrestling here in Indiana will be excited. Any fans that want to grow in and learn more about independent wrestling, this is a good chance. I will be interviewing local independent wrestler Jared Kripke for the podcast, so make sure you guys tune in for that. That'll be coming soon. Drew, I know that you're probably looking forward to that as well. I know you're looking forward to Nitro next week. Do you want to tell them what's coming in March?
Oh, man. Should we just let the cat out of the bag?
Let's let that cat out of the bag. We don't have to reveal the specific shows, but what is March going to be, Drew?
WrestleMania.
That's right, folks. So the month of March is going to be WrestleMania month. We will tell you right now the first one we're going to be covering. How about we let the cat out of the bag on that? The first one, which will air on Tuesday, March 1st, is going to be WrestleMania 1, of course.
Yeah.
We're talk about some historically significant shows we're going to be covering. The first Raw, the first Nitro, and then the first WrestleMania.
And apparently WrestleMania is not as important as Monday Night Raw.
Okay, well here we go with this again. Don't give me that shit. I said 1A, 1B. You son of a bitch. All right. Yeah. Obviously, WrestleMania is going to be fun to go and look back on. I wonder what we're going to think of it. It's been a long time since you and I watched it. I believe we watched it together when the network first launched. We were going to do a thing where we watched every WrestleMania together. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. But We were going to try and do it before WrestleMania 30. We didn't end up doing it. My God, the first few WrestleManias are kind of tough to get through, but we're going to do it for you guys.
Yeah, they're just very old and I don't know, just long.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed the first episode of Wrestling the Past. Stay tuned for more. We will be here every Tuesday. And like I said, you can catch us here on the YouTube channel. You can catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I am Kyle McGee. He is the legendary Drew Blazer, and we are out of time. So join us next time on Wrestling the Past.